Hi, I'm Diana, the artist behind My McDoodles. Welcome to my channel. Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to be drawing this cute little doodle you see on the screen. This could be a really cute greeting card or an email or even a text message to a friend whenever you want to say hi and give them a little cheer. We'll draw this doodle in Procreate using the brushes that are included for free in the Procreate brush library, and then at the end we'll animate it a little bit to give it like a little extra pizzazz. Then you can use it for like a GIF or a little animation to send to a friend. I've created a document that is the same size as my screen, and the color palette that I'll be using today is the Pretty Pattern Challenge color palette, and that's available for free on my website. I'll put a link in the description of this video. You can go to dianamcdermott.com/freebies and you'll see it there, but I'll also link it in the description. Just look for the palette that's called Pretty Pattern Challenge, and those are the colors I'll be using to make my illustration today. The brush I'll be using in this tutorial is the dry ink brush. It's in the inking section of the brush library. It comes free with the Procreate app. I also have free brushes over on the freebies section of my website if you want to check those out. So first I need to grab this light pink color, and we're using the dry ink brush, and we'll go ahead and draw in the little hand. So it's going to come out from the side and then have like 4 bumps for the knuckles, and it doesn't have to be like super realistic. This is like a really like silly little cartoon hand. And then just fill it in with your pencil without lifting it, rather than dropping the color in, so that it saves like this texture that comes with this cool brush. If you need to clean it up a little, just use an eraser that's the same as your brush by holding down on the eraser tool, and it'll say erase with current brush. And then you can retain the texture. So if you need to clean up along the edges, it'll still look like it has that nice like textured feeling to it. And I'm just going to use that to kind of like shape out my hand a little bit. Okay, so something like that looks good. We'll do the thumb at the end. So right now you're just doing like the 4 knuckles, like if you were holding a bouquet of flowers like this. And then we'll put the thumb in behind everything at the end. And then we can go ahead and draw in a new layer that's behind the hand, the stems for the flowers. So I'm going to use this like dark greenish color and just draw in stems, kind of thin, and just do a whole bunch of them sticking out of the hand. And just make them varying lengths and kind of just splaying out, like if you were holding a bouquet of flowers and they were all like drooping out from the top of the hand. And then in a new layer on top of that, we'll make the actual little flowers. You can make them whatever color you wish. I'm going to make mine kind of like daisies and stuff like that. So I'm going to grab this grayish color, and that will be my daisy. And I want it to be so that it's like viewed from the side. So I'm only going to draw in the petals that you see from the side and not like this top one. Okay, and then we'll mix in some other kind of flowers too. So make a new layer. Actually, let's put the center of the daisy. So I'll make it kind of like popping up like that with the light yellow. Okay, and then in a new layer, I'll go ahead and make my next set of flowers, maybe like this darker pink. I think I'll put it behind the daisies so that you can not worry about covering them. They're kind of like the highlight of my bouquet. And then just make some like messy flowers. None of these have to be like real life flowers. I just call them whatever flowers. Just make messy ones to kind of fill in the space. And then another layer I'll do blue. And we need some like little ones to kind of fill in the gaps. And it doesn't always have to be attached to a stem either. It can be like floating out here in space, to kind of just like fill in and add like a little spray. And that looks cute too. So just look for areas that have like white gaps that look like they need filling so it doesn't look odd. I'll make another set of those little ones with the lightest blue. I'm just going to do it in the same layer since they're the same type of flower. Okay, so that looks pretty cute. And then I'll just make little middles for these flowers. I think I'll make those pink. You could almost also make them yellow. That would look cute. But I'm going to go with the lightest pink. Maybe put a few yellow ones too, just to kind of mix it up. Okay, and I went with the darker yellow, like that gold color. And then I think I'll put some like dots in the middle of these pink ones. I want to do it in a new layer just in case I don't like it. It's really easy to take it back out. Okay, I think that looks cute. And sometimes it's helpful to like zoom it out and see how it looks from like different perspectives, like a little bit smaller. You can sometimes see things that need to be adjusted or whatever. Okay, now we just need to make the thumb behind the flowers. So I'll make that all the way in the bottom. I can't create a layer below this, so I have to create it in front and then just scooch it down. And then we'll grab that same color we used for the hand and just make like a little rounded shape back there, and that's the thumb. Okay, that looks pretty good. And in front of these stems, I'll just add a few leaves. And that's not what daisy leaves look like. That's okay, this is just like a fun little cartoon. Okay, that kind of fills it in, that looks good. And then, let's see, maybe we'll make like a background here. So put a layer all the way in the back. I'm gonna grab this like super light blue. And since these flowers are light blue, I can't color the background light blue or else they're just gonna disappear. So what I'm gonna do is use that same color but reduce the opacity over here about halfway. Make like a little swatch and then suck that color up. Undo the little swatch I just made and then turn this all the way back up to 100%. And then that makes it easy to color with this light blue without worrying about having like a glazing effect where if you kept it at 50%, you can't lift your pen because when you go back down, you can see this area is going to be overlapping and darker. If that's the look that you're going for, then fine, do it that way. But I want mine to be just like solid. So I'm just gonna turn this all the way back up to 100 and use that swatch of the lighter blue that I created and just make like a blobby kind of background behind this hand. Something like that. And then this time I am gonna drop the color in. When you're using a pen like the dry ink, sometimes the color doesn't drop in properly. So if there's a gap, if you have any gaps at all like that, it's just going to spill out onto the page. But also if you drew it light and it is looking like it's sealed up, the texture in this pen, it sometimes allows it to spill out all over the page also. So you have to make sure this threshold here is the appropriate amount. So if it's spilling out, you can go to the left until it drops only into that circle. Of course, it's not working this time. I mean on the space, but if you take it all the way down, you should be able to have it so it only drops into the circle. And once you have it where it's only in the circle, you can kind of go back up a little bit to the right and see how far you can take it before it spills out. And that'll help prevent having these white lines around the edge of the picture. It's not so bad here, but sometimes it's like a really obvious white line. But if you take it down to the minimum amount it needs to fill the circle, and then slowly go back towards the right. You can usually get it really close where you don't really have like an ugly white line around the border or like an obvious border. So I like to zoom in and check to make sure I don't have a line like that. And there's like a little bit here, but it kind of just looks like texture, so that's okay. And it's not bad, but if there was one, I would either just go around and kind of like clean it up or redo my color drop with the technique I just showed you. Okay, so I like that. I think I'll make it a little smaller and just resize it real quick here. Maybe have like the stems coming off of the background a little bit. And if you want a textured edge, you can just turn up your brush and just trace around the edge one last time to get like all that texture in there. Okay, so I think that looks cute. I'm gonna give this girl a bracelet. So a very top layer, just make a new layer, and then I'm just gonna grab this light yellow and just draw in like some circles, like it's like a little beaded bracelet or something. We'll write a little message up here to make a new layer on the top. And I think I'll try this light pink. You can keep the dry ink as your lettering brush. You might need to adjust the streamline, so sometimes it's hard to write without it looking all like shaky. It picks up like every jitter in your hand if your brush isn't streamlined. So you can make any brush kind of like into a lettering brush just by clicking it and then adjusting the streamline here until it's like comfortable for you to write with. And so mine's at 33%. If it was at 0, you'd see it's like much harder to, it picks up like every little jitter in your hand, which is great when you're drawing in little details because you want to have a lot of control. But when you're lettering, it helps a lot to have your brush streamlined so that your strokes look nice and smooth. So mine was 33%. I'm just going to put it back to what it was. And then we can make our lettering up here. And this brush does have like pressure sensitivity so that when you push harder, the lines get thicker. So that's kind of nice for lettering. And you can also do that with any brush by adjusting it in the brush studio. Yeah, you would just go to the Apple Pencil setting and you can adjust pressure and increase the size. All right, so I think that looks pretty cute. Maybe we'll make like a little heart for the punctuation. Okay. The last thing I'll do is add like the little like sparkle kind of things. So I'll make a new layer at the very top and then draw in like these star kind of sparkle shapes. Like that. And just center everything back up on the canvas. If you turn on snapping and magnetics, it's really easy to center it up. Okay, so that's centered, and I do want it to stay this direction because I want the arm to be coming out. But I think I'll move my blue background so that it's centered on the canvas a little bit better. And then go from there with adjusting my little stars and my lettering. I actually kind of like it like that, where the hay is kind of hanging off the edge. And it kind of matches how the stems are hanging off too. Okay, so I think that looks pretty cute. So you could leave it just like this and have it as like a cute little greeting card to print or to email, or you can animate it. So the next step, we'll animate it and turn it into a GIF. So the areas I'd like to animate are definitely the stars and maybe the words too. So let's start with the stars. To animate in Procreate, they made it really easy. They have some tools that'll help us. So what I'd like to do first is take this lettering and the stars back out of my group. I grouped up all of my elements so that it was easy to move it around. And you also can group up your elements into folders and it will treat that as one frame. If you don't have it in a group, it'll treat each of these layers as its own individual frame in the animation, and you'll have things like blinking off and on, like stems, leaves, flowers, and that kind of thing. But if you have a folder, it'll treat everything in that folder as one like solid image and as its own frame. So I'm going to pull out the stars because I want to animate those. I don't want them to be like a static image in the background. And I'm going to pull out this hay. And everything else is going to remain in this group. So first I would like to work on the stars. So I'm just going to turn off the hay so it's not distracting. You can either just create layer after layer here to do this animation, or you can use the animation assist tool, which is in this menu. If you go to actions, canvas, animation assist, it'll create your frames down here for you, and it does make it a little bit easier. So first I would like to tell it to keep the hands and the flowers as like a static image in the background. So I'm going to click on that, click on background, and now that won't change. It'll just be like its own image that never moves. And now the stars are the first layer in this animation. That's what this one is here. It's this layer here. So you can add a new frame, and then you just trace over your stars. But each time you trace them, it'll be a little bit just like a little bit offset, so it'll kind of give them like some wiggle. You could also make them like bigger and smaller, or you could add stars in different areas. Whatever you want to do is fine. I'm going to just trace over these ones in this frame just to have it like wiggle a little bit. So you can test it by pressing play, and then you can see how tracing over the first frame gives you like this cute little blinky effect, and you can continue doing that. So you can just keep adding a frame, and then it'll show you where your last one was. If this is distracting when you have a lot of layers, you can also adjust your onion skin opacity, so you can make it so you can only see like the previous frame, just to make it easier for yourself. But you can just continue going through and tracing your stars, and it'll make it look like it's like they're wiggling or blinking when you have the final thing done. I'm going to do about 10 frames and just trace it each time. And it's easy to go back in and add other little details, like if you wanted to add little like dots or like tiny sparkles popping up in different areas, you can just go back into each frame and add that once you have your base. I'm just going to trace them for now so I have a nice animation with these stars, and make sure that that's working before I do too much work in each frame, because then it's hard to like go back and redo everything. And if you wanted to duplicate the same exact frame, all you do is hold down add frame and it'll duplicate the previous one exactly. And I don't want to do that in this case because I want my stars to move around and wiggle and stuff. So I'm just going to delete it back out. You can just tap the frame and press delete. And you can also tap it and press duplicate there. But another way is to hold down add frame. Okay, so let's test that. Okay, I think that looks pretty cute. I'm going to leave it like that and then work on animating the text. So I'll turn my text layer back on, and if I leave it like this, you can see that that is treating it as one frame, so the text vanishes. You might want to add it for just like some of the animation and have it not appear the whole way through, but I definitely want it for more than one frame. And the way you can have it coordinate with your stars is you just group these into folders, and now it's going to treat the words plus those stars as one frame. And then you can go through and add a layer for each set of stars and group it into a folder and use that layer to write your words or like trace over it, just like we did with the stars. And that is an easy way to make a whole bunch of frames for your lettering so that it stays with the stars and it keeps things organized. So I'm just going to go through and trace it 10 times, and each time I'm just going to make a new layer and group it up with the stars and put it in a folder, and then just trace my word in that blank layer. So I've traced my word for each frame and I have them all in folders. So there, in each folder there's a stars layer and a lettering layer. So then we can just test it out and you can see how it like kind of animates together. And here in the settings, you can adjust your frame rate and the way that this animation will play. So if you needed to play faster, you just increase your frames per second, or slower, you just take it down, and you can have it like go up and back or loop through, or even just one time through, which is kind of short. But you can press loop and it'll continue going until you push stop. And that's how I usually do it. There are times when I use ping pong, but I very rarely use one time through because it's too short. So you can adjust everything you need to in this menu here. If you need to make something that goes in the foreground, like say you wanted to sign your name or something that can't be like included in this background layer, you just make a new frame and then you just like write whatever you wanted or draw in whatever you wanted and then click it and tell it to use it as the foreground, and then it won't move. It'll stay static just like the background, and then anything in between will animate. You can export it. You just push share and then you can export it as an animated GIF. There's also these other options, animated PNG, MP4, and HEVC. You can't use the animated GIF for Instagram though, so if you want to post this on Instagram, all you can do is you push play, and then you need to do like a screen capture. So you go here, you swipe down to get to like this menu with all these controls, and then you push record and then go back in here, push play, and then tap 4 fingers on the screen to get the full screen, and you let it record for like 10 seconds or so, and then you go into your photos app and you can edit it in there to take out the part where you're turning the recording back off and stuff, and also to crop it to a square if you need to. So you would just go back up here into your photos and then push edit and then just clip the beginning and the end so that it doesn't show you like turning on the recording and all of that stuff. So you just adjust these sliders. And then you can crop it so that this isn't showing, and so it's a square. See how there's like a bar showing at the bottom and then this thing showing at the top? That's part of Procreate. So you can just kind of crop it up till it looks nice. You can make it square. Mine might not fit because I signed too big, but you could crop it to a square so that you can post it to Instagram. And that's how you post your videos. You won't be able to post your GIF, but you could save it as a GIF and email it or text it to your friend or whatever. You have this cute little animation to send them. So I hope this tutorial was fun for you. If you create this little animation, I'd love to see what you created. So be sure to tag me if you post it on Instagram. You could tag me at @MyMcDoodles or #MyMcDoodles so I can see what you've created. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe before you go so you don't miss out on the next fun tutorial. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.